Welcome, everyone, and welcome back. Hope you had a wonderful week.
Woohoo! Welcome back indeed.
Indeed. So, Fran, tell us about the wine that we're having today.
Well, as usual, I went to my local Fenwick Beer and Wine store. They had a few wines for taste today. They were from France.
Ooh.
La France! Vive la France! And, you have to excuse the cats in the background. The pats, there are two cats. Mallow, Emily, and my dog Ziggy, so y'all gonna see them sometimes. For right now, the wine is called Villa Saint Jean. So it sounds like St. John's Villa or something in English. It's a Picou de Pinet, whatever the hell that is. It's a white wine. Nonetheless, it's Villa Saint Jean is a brand, and Picou de Pinet is the type of white wine. Maybe it's a Pinot Grigio. Maybe that's not Picot de Pinet. Maybe Picot de Pinet is Pinot Grigio in French.
I hate the fact that you're butchering the language.
It's such an odd language.
It sure is.
Everyone should speak English.
Yeah, they sure do.
It's so much easier.
Indeed.
It would make it easier for me in my life.
Anywho,
okay, so Picot de Pinet from Villa Saint Jean. I'm gonna read the back of the bottle. It reads 100% Picpoul, whatever that is. Produced in the south of France on the shores of the Thau Lagoon in Languedoc, with the Mediterranean Sea just beyond. It is an airy, lively wine full of pep. Recognizable by its legendary and natural freshness, lively and aromatic on the palate, with notes of lemons and blossom, ending on a refreshing finish. Perfect pairing with any fish dishes, shrimps, seafood, lobster rolls. Very well written. I would say an American helped them write that out. Well, we are going to do a taste testing of Villa Saint Jean's Picot de Pinet.
Jesus.
We're
going to start off first with the smell.
Don't envy my French. I took 2 years of French.
We're going to start off first with the smell?
With the smell. And yes, it is a martini glass. Do not ask. Oh, I feel like I need a better glass to smell. It smells really good.
It does. So for me, I believe that I would give this rating a 4 out of 5. Quite frankly, because the smell, the freshness of it is just so overpowering.
Really?
So good. Yes.
Really? Then I gotta pour some more in here so I can get a proper smell.
So there's a little hint of citrusness, but the smell overall has this very sweet yet subtle yet.
Oh yeah, it smells like sugar.
It does. It smells like sugar, like orange sugar.
It's like, yeah, orange and sugar just burnt somewhere and just went right into your nose.
Indeed.
It smells good. I'm gonna give the smell a 4.
A 4 as well.
Yeah.
All right, so 4 to 4. Now for the texture and
color. It's a gorgeous gold.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful. None of that rusty, dusty oil spill. It's really pretty. Yeah, it's clear. It's like clear gold. I'm gonna give the texture and the color a 5. This is a
5.
Beautiful color.
4 out of 5 for me. Pretty close to 5, honestly. I love the bubbles. I love the clarity. I love the gold texture.
It is a beautiful.
The golden texture all around it with clearness and everything.
It's smooth. I feel like I'd melt this and make it into a chain.
Okay, so 4 out of 5, and you give it a 5 out of 5. And finally, the taste.
Oh, God, it's good. The French know what they're doing. Villa Saint Jean. Y'all did it for me today, this Friday. This is exquisite. It's real good. Isn't it?
3 out of 5.
Really?
3 out of 5.
Why are you so hard to please? I give it a 5. I think it's really, really good.
Honey, you drink a lot of wine. You just don't care for anything else for it.
Wow, that's really disrespectful.
It's not, because it's true.
I drink a lot of white wine right now because it's kind of hot. I switch out my wines according to the temperature. So in the winter, I typically do reds, and in the summers or the warmer seasons, I do white. And I'm on a white wine run right now, and this is just doing it for me. I'm giving this wine a 5 out of 5 straight up.
5 out of 5.
You can hear the cats fighting in the background. Y'all are mad about Marty's rating?
They're ruining the show. So there are cats fighting in the background, as they always are, which is why we don't tend to allow pets during the recording. But here we are. Anyways,
over there, Ziggy. Over there.
I do like it. You know what? It's not an overpowering taste, so I'd rather just give it. I'm gonna cut part of this section now.
Just leave it, Marty. It's okay. Just keep talking. So you give it. What do you give it out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. It's pretty close to 4, honestly. It's just there's something that's missing.
So
there's this.
Nothing's missing.
No, there's just something missing. There's something overpowering the taste, but it's like so close to being a 4 out of 5.
Right. I give it a 5 out of 5. This is lemon, citrus, refreshing drink. I could see myself by like a seashore just watching the waves come in for like 14 hours straight and just having like a bottle and a half with a friend and just talking about the good old times and just reminiscing about the good old days. And this is a really beautiful, gorgeous, delicious wine for, I think, a beachside, like a little 65, 70 degrees C day, you know, like chilling out, watching the waves and the seagulls and, I don't know, listening to people in the background, knocking back some wine.
Indeed.
Having a good time.
And a good time indeed.
So you give it a what?
An overall rating of 4 out of 5.
And I give it a 5 out of 5, so let's just call it a straight 4.
Straight 4.
Cheers. Okay, so if you've been following the news, you would have heard that Orenthal James Simpson died last week. Or is it this week? I feel like it's this week that he passed away.
Oh, dear God, it was this weird.
Yeah, it just happened April 10th. So what are we? April? Well, actually, so it's a while ago then.
Like 7 days ago.
So it's about a week ago.
Sorry, 9 days ago. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so Orenthal James Simpson, known mostly by O.J. Simpson, most of his career, died about a week ago. And I just wanted to take some time out to kind of discuss the controversial figure / football star / accused murderer that O.J. Simpson was, and try to bring to light some of the very interesting things about O.J. Simpson, and I think the kind of love-hate relationship that the media had with him, and mostly hate relationship after, you know, the case with the death of his wife, Nicole Brown Simpson.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a super short history of O.J. Simpson. This is on Wikipedia. Orenthal James Simpson was born July 9th, 1947. He died April 10th, 2024. He was an All-American football player and actor. And I want to say he was born in San Francisco and went to school somewhere around Oakland. He was born into pretty much abject poverty in his family. He was an amazing football player, and luckily for him, the coaches on the teams that he played on in Oakland recognized that. He made big newspaper headlines. Eventually ended up at the University of Southern California, where he made a big splash. As soon as he got there, he took the team all the way to, I want to say, the finals, and I think I forgot what team he beat. I want to say, oh gosh, I forgot the team he beat at the finals, but it was basically like a miraculous comeback, one last minute, and he became a sensation during the time that he was at the University of Southern California. After he finished university, he went to the Buffalo Bills. I want to say he was the number 1 draft pick that year. let's see, he was number one draft pick in 1969, and he played with the Bills until 1977. Then he played with San Francisco 49ers from 1978 till 1979. He did commercials. He did a lot of commercials during that time. I want to say he started off with a Hertz commercial.
Yes.
He did numerous commercials. He went into the movies as well during his off season with the football. With football, he would be either appearing in TV roles with small parts and eventually leading to bigger parts. I wanted to list some of the movies he was in. Oh, let's see. Okay, so he was in let's see, he was in Dragnet, he was in Medical Center. I think these are smaller roles.
Yeah.
He was in Roots. He was in The Klansman, The Towering Inferno, The Cassandra Crossing, Capricorn 1, Goldie and the Boxer. He was in Saturday Night Live as well. So he appeared in The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen, which was one of the biggest movies.
It was
back in the late 80s, early 90s. Leslie Nielsen was I think he was like all the rage with was it the Black Panther movies? Oh, sorry, the Naked Gun. Sorry, the Naked Gun movies, the Naked Gun trilogy. And he was in a whole host of other movies. During that time, also after his career in football and with his career in the movies, and also he's already kind of from the San Francisco Bay Area, he moved to LA. I want to say in the late 70s. And I forgot to mention this, while he was in high school, sorry, not high school, while he was in college, he had gotten married. I want to say he had 3 kids with his first wife. I forgot his first wife's name. They had 3 kids. Unfortunately, the third one died in a drowning accident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think after that, he said that the marriage kind of fell apart because it was really rough on him and his wife. So eventually, he divorced his wife and married Nicole Brown Simpson. I want to say in the late 70s, early 80s, they got married and had 2 other children. And they had a very rocky marriage, Nicole and O.J. Simpson. It made the news sometimes that he would be beating on her. He was a known wife beater in the Los Angeles police department that was closest to his house. He had numerous phone calls. There's numerous records. There's numerous incidents, pictures, evidence of him beating Nicole Brown Simpson on a regular, pretty much. There is 911 phone calls with Nicole on the phone screaming, saying he's gonna kill me. He's beating me. He's angry. He's come home. He's in a rage. If you haven't seen any of this, you can tune into Netflix. They have a whole history of O.J. Simpson from pretty much from the beginning of his life until the end of the murder trial of Nicole Brown Simpson. And somewhere, I want to say in the summer of 1992, Nicole, I want to say he got divorced from Nicole around 1992-ish, maybe 1993. They started kind of separation proceedings.
Yep. And
Nicole was found dead, I want to say in 1994, like the summer of 1994. And what came from the O.J. Simpson drama, from the finding of Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman, who was also murdered, that people hardly ever talk about, by the way, was a series of events that was very, very, I guess we could just call it like spectacular. It made spectacular news stories. So the first thing that happened is, I want to say a neighbor heard a dog barking.
So, to recollect of what I know, It wasn't that the dog was barking. He was walking his dog, and then he heard his dog barking. Because I guess the dog's picked up on a strange smell.
Yeah.
So the neighbor was following the dog, seeing like what's going on. Why is the dog acting erratically? And then he turned to see where the dog was trying to go, and he saw like a pool of blood. And then he went further and saw two unknown bodies.
Right.
In really bad condition, and so the neighbor started panicking and called the police.
Yes, and so the neighbor calls the police. The police come. Of course, they already know. The police know OJ's house. So immediately, it makes a news splash that Nicole has been found dead. And, if you've ever watched any murder mystery where a spouse has been found dead, whether it's a man or a woman, the first suspect is always the husband or the wife, whoever the spouse is. So, of course, OJ was suspect number one. OJ, as it turned out, had flown to Chicago that same night, and he flew back in once he heard Nicole had passed away, and he came back to a frenzy of news media and news reports, and of course they started to gather evidence as to what had happened. And in the end, I want to say, when did the speed chase happen? Was it like about 6 to 8 months later when they were going to actually charge him with murdering Nicole?
It happened like a couple of months right after the beginning of the scene, because sorry, what happened was that, one, the police got there. Two, they call OJ, and they found out, he's actually in Chicago, so he wasn't here at the time. But what happened was the detective, I can't remember the detective, but a detective in the main case called OJ from the hotel, and he was breaking the news to him, and OJ was really cold on the other line. Like, he had no jumpity response, or no anxiety or further questions. All he said was, "Oh, okay, I'll be there as soon as I can." It was very robotic. And so they hung up, and the detective was feeling that lingering sensation, something's off, something's not right. This isn't a response from a loving husband or a loving ex-husband or whatever it is. But to be honest, there's a reason why O.J. Simpson and Nicole broke up, because they couldn't get along, and OJ had a lot of resentment towards the marriage and all that stuff.
I don't think it's that they did not get along.
They really did not get along.
OJ Simpson was an egomaniac, and he married a very, very young girl. He married her when she was 18 or 19, or he met her when she was 18 or 19 years old. She was a very impressionable young woman.
Yes.
He had already been married. He'd already had children, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's probably 15 to 18 years older than her, I think, when he marries her. So he just married her, to me, and I think he groomed her to be able to take advantage of her, whether it was beating her or putting her down.
I guess we'll get further into our opinions further on that.
Yeah.
But to lay out the case of what was going on and why O.J. Simpson is not known. I mean, he's still known for being one of the best football players of all time. I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy. And that was a really huge deal, and he hit so many records. Oh yeah, this man could run. This man,
he was play. A runner. He really could, yeah.
And I known him from the Naked Gun movies too.
Oh really?
When I was a kid, yeah.
That's too funny.
And I only made the connection that this guy and the guy that was on the news 24/7 when I was growing up were the same guy.
Okay, that's so funny. Okay, but let's continue. Let's get back on track. So
as I was telling you, so the detective got off the phone with him. They started pointing out like little details, like when did he actually get on to Chicago. Turns out it was on the same night,
right? So around I want to say like around 11 o'clock is when he might have got into Chicago, maybe 12ish, something like that. But Nicole and Ron Goldman, I think, were murdered around 10 o'clock at night or Correct. 9 o'clock at night. It just didn't. What is it called? The math was mathing towards.
The math wasn't mathing.
No, the math was mathing towards OJ looking guilty.
Gotcha. So yeah, like in the morning after the morning crew stepped in, I believe, like new investigators and stuff. That's where we get that famous guy. What's his name? Ferguson. In the case, another detective who will be very, very contentious during the trials. So, anyways, now things started to pointing to OJ because his tone with the police department,
Right.
The well-known thing that like it's usually the spouse or the ex-spouse that usually commits the murders.
Yes.
So they started investigating really very, very quickly. Started interviewing everybody for the staff for the OJ house. They found a bloody glove. They found the bloody socks on the ground.
And I want to say they found some blood stains on his Bronco.
Yes.
They found a whole host of evidence that was leading towards them thinking
Oh yeah.
that OJ had done it. So a couple months later,
Nope, we're rushing too
OJ's basically has to turn himself into the LAPD and basically go to jail and await trial. And what ends up happening is one of OJ's friends, is it Al Cowlings or something? Is it Al?
far. ACAL or something like that.
I think it's Al Cowlings, somebody like that. One of his best friends and him. I don't know if they decided to drive to Mexico because they're in California. This is what I feel like a lot of people think they can do. And you know, it always sounds like a great idea to drive to Mexico, but unless you're like right on the border, you can't get to Mexico that quickly from LA. It's probably like 4 to 6 hours to get to the border. You know what I mean?
Right.
By the time you even get there, especially if it's the same day you need to turn yourself in, you're not going to make it. They're already going to alert the authorities. Scott Peterson tried that as well. Dyed his hair blonde, had like $10,000 in a suitcase and tried to drive to Mexico when he was accused of killing his wife. I want to say Casey Peterson, I think in Modesto, California, and he didn't make it to the border. But at any rate, OJ basically makes a run for it with his friend.
And let's talk about the run real quick.
And he's
interesting.
in the Bronco with his friend, and this is at the point in time where 24/7 news media has become a thing on CNN.
Right.
CNN has advertised themselves as a 24-hour news network.
So do you know why that whole thing started in the first place?
And the helicopters basically start looking around LA looking for a white Ford Bronco, which I would imagine there would be so many Ford Broncos, but somehow I do not know how. I guess they must have put out some radio alerts telling them the license plates to look for, and someone must have called it in. But they found the Bronco on the goddamn highway, and the helicopters swooned in as soon as they located it. And then the police swooned in behind them as soon as they located the Bronco. And what ensued was a car chase of O.J. Simpson in the back of a Bronco with a shotgun to his head, on the phone talking to various people, basically saying he was going to kill himself. And the LAPD basically communicating back and forth, trying to tell him, do not kill himself, that he should stick to, he should think about his kids and think about his family. OJ and Al drive all the way back to his house eventually and have a standoff until the wee hours of the night. The drive to his house includes parades of people on the highways with signs saying "Run, OJ, run." People made signs and t-shirts and all kinds of crazy stuff and plaques and picket signs cheering him on all the way to his house. There were people waiting at his house when he got there, even when he was in his Bronco at I don't know, I don't remember what time he turned himself in finally when he put down the shotgun. But eventually the cops do get to OJ. They take him out of the car safely. I forgot what happened to his friend. His friend
gets arrested, and he gets slapped with a misdemeanor in assisting the whole thing, but not too much of a big deal came after that.
Right.
Because the whole point was to make sure that OJ was brought into custody
Without being
any
without
incident.
harming himself. Because
In fact, that was the whole point of why the whole chase started in the first place.
right.
So it was actually during that morning or that earlier that day that the detectives were there to pick him up. And so OJ said to them, "Okay, I'll go willingly, but first I have to speak to my mom."
Oh,
And so
and they let him go to his mom's. That is
no, they didn't let him go to his mom's. They let him like go in the other room so that he can call his mom and talk to her and tell her, "Hey, I'm gonna be gone for a while," or blah blah blah. So that's what they assumed. The entire time, OJ was talking to his friend and saying, "I gotta go see my mom. I gotta go see my mom. I gotta get out of here. Blah blah blah. Come on, man. You're my best friend. You gotta help me out here." And blah blah blah. I can't do this alone. And so he was in a manic state, like panicking.
wow.
And so that's what ended up happening is that him and his friend and OJ got into the Bronco and started speeding out. The only reason why they were caught in the first place was because they were speeding. They were such already in a manic state. If they were just
interesting.
chilling, they would have realized, hey, listen, maybe we should
slow down.
or trade a different car than the Bronco that was like a key evidence of part of the case.
Right.
Because it's the same effing Bronco that
Right.
was spotted in the what you call it,
Yeah.
spotted in the case scene,
In the murder scene.
spotted afterwards with
Had the
bloodstains
blood
and
on it,
everything, and
yeah.
patted down, and it was still being used by the OJ family and friends.
Wow.
So yeah, talk about like
Yeah, so
case
you're
of the
right. He
century.
was trying to see his mom. I don't think it's a case of the century. I think they made it that. But OJ eventually comes out of the Bronco. He's taken into the police station, and what happens after that is a long, I want to say about a year-long trial of OJ Simpson, where I mean, we as a country, and I think the whole world, was glued to the television set to try to see like what new evidence they had, how OJ was coming along, and whether or not he was going to jail. And the funny thing is, before OJ got to trial, I believe most of the TV news stations had already kind of gathered themselves that he was guilty and that he was never gonna get away with this murder. But what I wanted to kind of point out today is the commodification of OJ Simpson, and basically the kind of like the amount of money that was made from him and this case, and also I wanted to talk about like how Black people view the OJ Simpson trial and how we look at the case and what we thought about it. I wanted to talk about the commodification of OJ because even though it was a tragedy, a lot of people made a lot of money off of this tragedy. You have here two relatively young individuals, Nicole Brown Simpson, who was probably like in her 30s, maybe late 30s, mid 30s ish. Ron Goldman looked like he was in his 20s. He looked really, really young.
Oh, that's because he was.
Yeah, he worked at a restaurant, I think, where Nicole used to work, and they were friends and lovers.
They
and
used to hang out, but yeah. No, they weren't. Okay, we'll get more into it.
It seems like they were
We'll get more
also
into
going
it.
out. We who knows? But
We'll get more into it for the
yeah, but it was
discussion.
a friend that used to sleep over. So, these are two relatively young people who lost their lives, and in the midst of this tragedy, and in the midst of trying to put yet another Black man in jail, right? We have a lot of people on the side just making just boatloads of money off of this. Mm-hmm. And as much as we want to make OJ out to be, this terrible person, which by the way, if you watch that Netflix special, you might change your mind about how you feel about OJ if you liked him. He was a brutal wife beater, let me tell you. brutal wife beater. But I want to talk about the commodification of OJ from some articles that I read online. So basically, everybody made money off of OJ.
Yeah.
All right. Now OJ came from abject poverty. This man worked his entire life to get to where he was in Hollywood. And he lived a beautiful life after he retired from football. I think he got something like $25,000 a month from his retirement plan in the NFL. Of course, he had movie deals and all sorts of advertising and commercials. And just in general, he just had a lot of friends. He didn't really have to pay for stuff wherever he went. He was super, super, super famous. So, you know, a lot of his tabs were paid wherever he went. He was part of a lot of luxurious golf clubs and just clubs in general in the Los Angeles region. He was friends with a lot of people at the LAPD, even though they all knew he was a terrible wife beater. But nonetheless, this guy was a wife beater, but also he supported a family. According to the Netflix special, OJ supported all of Nicole's family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The father, the mother, the sister, the brother, the auntie, the this, the that. OJ was the patriarch of Nicole Brown Simpson's family.
Yeah.
And the whole time that she was with this man, he was paying for pretty much her lifestyle, their lifestyle, and her family's lifestyle. Yeah. And of course, OJ had a previous family too. Of course, he was paying for that family as well. So a lot of times I think when Nicole wanted to leave, you know, she would think to herself, I don't know what my family is going to think, because this is our breadwinner. Who's going to pay for our lifestyle after I divorce this man? And, you know, she stuck around for
a good while.
With this man. So these are the people that made money off of O.J. Simpson. So O.J. spent, on Robert Shapiro and Johnny Cochran, who were his lawyers at this time, a big lawyer team, which was called a dream team, 3.5 and 6 million. All right, so that's 9.5. That's almost 10 million for those two lawyers. With each additional month, the trial dragged on, adding $800,000 to the tab, according to the LA Times. And the jurors made $5 a day for 265 days at a whopping $1,325. So that was the lawyers. The lawyers themselves made about $10 million, the dream team, which back in the early 90s was a lot of money. That's probably $20-30 million now as the dollar has depreciated, right? There was a 1-900 chat line. Simpson's friend Cowling, I think it's the same guy who drove him in the Bronco. Reportedly, that 900 chat line was designed for people to call in to ask questions to Cowling, made $300,000. Simpson's driver, his limousine driver, had a whole Century-themed cruise line tickets that sold at $500 to $800 per person that he made money off of. Now you get into network television. CNN basically covered this trial, what you call gavel to gavel, which is 24/7, which means anytime the trial was on, they would play pretty much the entire trial. So they had, you know, you don't have to do a lot of work to run a TV station if all you need is a news feed coming in from LA feeding your TV station. You don't have to do news packages. You don't have to pay people to make those news packages. A package is basically like, if you ever see a news story, like, let's say like Florida flooded, and someone does a story about a particular part of Florida, that's called a news package, right? So you don't have to have all these people going to different places to get news packages done. You just run the feed from, you know, KTLA or wherever it's coming from, and There you go. That's all your TV for the day. All your sponsors are gonna pay for it because everybody was glued to it, right? So CNN made a bundle of money. They made a big name for themselves as this 24-hour news network. Let's see who else made money. Everybody that was connected to Nicole and OJ wrote memoirs, pretty much. There were about 50 books that were written.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Robert Kardashian's wife back then, who was Kris Jenner, because of the sensation that people took interest in this trial, people started to idolize and look at LA lifestyle and the rich and famous, and that spawned the whole reality TV television, believe it or not. So the O.J. Simpson trial led people to be fascinated with LA culture and spawned literally Kim Kardashian and her whole family empire's television show, The Kardashians. Let's see.
There were book deals from.
There was also the Inquirer. Tabloid news made a lot of money. Apparently, the tabloids were not making a lot of money in the early 90s. The O.J. Simpson trial brought a lot of those people probably out of bankruptcy and not making a lot of money. Because now you can sell all those covers with OJ. You can sell all kind of stories about OJ. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Marty?
Oh, I was going to mention again about the book deals. So even though the jurors didn't make a lot of money, a couple of them actually made a book deal right afterwards.
Oh, yes. One even appeared on, I think, on Playboy and the Centerfold.
Yep.
One that was dismissed got featured and made some money.
Yep,
There's
because
so
they
many
were
people
writing
made money.
during the case in which they couldn't do that. You can only write it afterwards. So they got kicked off, but like still made plenty of money. The best friend of Nicole Simpson, she made a nasty ass
tell-all book.
Tell-all book
about
how they were in orgies, how they were doing drugs, how they were participating in threesomes and like doing swaps and cheating and doing all these salacious things and everything, and how they confessed to each other, how like she was in an abusive relationship and all this, etc., etc.
I heard about that too.
And like when I was younger, I would have believed it. But taking a reflection further back, there was a couple of things that started to stand out.
And the friend I think's name is Faye Resnick.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And so it turns out like no, half of that stuff wasn't even true, because other people couldn't confirm it. Other people said, well, actually that contradicts of what was going on, because they said like, well, this was going on, and it's like no, like these people didn't even have the time to meet up with them anymore, or this or that, or something like that. Because of book deals or because of the movie deals, this person was actually there. Like other people started coming out against the book because the book wasn't matching, or wasn't mathing. Like you would like this type of book made sense at the time because we had the imagination of LA. But then when we started to find out, okay, Nicole did have a lot of issues with drugs when it came to during the relationship, and that's because
LA
of the
lifestyle. That's nothing.
And that's because of
nothing salacious. That's just the lifestyle of Los Angeles people, especially the rich and
which
famous.
is what I'm trying to get at, real quick. Because a lot of people believed it. A lot of people believed that they were performing on a lot of like sexual acts, including like couple swapping, all that stuff.
I believe it.
But the reality is that
I totally believe it.
I know you believe it, but like what I'm trying to say is that other people started coming out of the woodwork and saying, whoa, hang on. Like, I know Nicole was doing drugs and stuff like that, but this other stuff is untrue. It doesn't make sense. And the reason why is because other people can confirm, no, I was there when you were talking about this part in the book. Right. That didn't happen.
Right.
In fact, you and her were somewhere else.
Yes, and people on drugs always remember everything that's happened. Okay. Marty, look, let's agree to disagree there, because we'll argue all night. I'm not saying I would believe everything in a tell-all book. Stop. Everybody knows that people in Hollywood do very strange things.
No, that's not part of the question, though.
What?
That's not the debate here. That's not like something that needs to be like disagreed upon. What I'm saying is that the book is mostly false tales.
Okay.
That's why it was panned like years afterwards.
Okay, so let's move on along. I believe that most of the stuff that they're probably talking about
I
was
know you
probably
believe
true.
because you don't.
Right. Okay, so hold on. Let's keep it
No, no,
moving.
no. Actually,
Okay, so the Baltimore Sun
no, no, no.
said,
Actually, I really want to stay on this point real quick because you're kind of. Oh God, you got to proving my point real quick.
that what?
How we're gonna go forwards here. This whole thing is so bloated. It's why I want to go further into the details of it. Like I know we gotta keep moving, but this is this book is a demonstration of everything that went wrong throughout the whole case and right afterwards, and how everyone disrespected Nicole Simpson right after her death.
Oh.
Because as I said, you mostly believed what the book was going on.
I didn't read the book, but I mean,
Okay,
orgies and all that stuff. That's Hollywood.
I read segments from online and everything like that, and I read counter segments of like, this doesn't make any sense. Yes, Nicole did have like a couple thing with the one and only the Kardashian,
Oh God. Ugh.
because the Kardashians and the Simpsons were very very close couples back in the day. But then when the book started
cringe.
saying, "Oh, they started sleeping with this person, that person, and that person," that didn't actually make a lot of sense because that's not the pattern of how this couple was working at the time of LA. They knew that like and the restaurant where like what's his name? The guy that what's his name? Goldstein?
Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman. That's the restaurant where he used to work at, and that's where they used to pick up the drugs.
Oh.
And again, Nicole was very highly dependent on drugs during the relationship because of the abuse. But one of the reasons she wanted to get out of the relationship is because she was hyper dependent on the cocaine and all the drugs and everything. Once when they separated, Ron was the one. A lot of people confuse this, and two, no, they were not sleeping together. They were actually pretty close friends. Apparently, they had like a very, very troubled past, and because Nicole was using drugs at the time, they connected through that. Okay. That's why they were pairing. But anyways,
right, and that's why OJ killed him too. Okay. Alrighty, so let's move along. Marty, thank you for that. I appreciate the insight into what you think and you know how they got together. How are you connecting with the case? How is it that what are people mistaking that other people mistook with the case?
So here's the thing. While we're going through all of this, you're saying like how the tabloids were making money, how the news was making money.
Yes.
It was a gold mine.
Yes,
and
it
all
was.
the books and all the money that was flowing through.
Magazines, newspapers are making money.
Interviews,
Oh
everything.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like we're kind of also forgetting just how this is a representation of the 90s. And I've talked about this in other episodes. How the 90s was this huge splurge of media, reality, reactionary.
Yeah.
Like every little thing that was broadcasted to us in the 90s was a huge deal.
Yeah.
OJ was prime.
One of the biggest deals.
Yeah.
I was after like the Menendez brothers trial, like from before, which was made a huge splash. Another California murder trial where two young men who were from a very wealthy family basically killed their dad
and their mom.
And their dad and their mom, and then claimed that the dad used to sexually molest them. Yeah, but that's besides the point. But that was a trial that was on TV for a long time.
It was blasted throughout.
Yes, and they actually stayed in the same prison as OJ. By the way.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah, they sure did. But yeah, but go ahead. How does it?
So what I want to bring it back to, and it will eventually bring up to what you were talking about within the Black community. So this hyper reality, this hyper reactionary content that we got in the 90s, like really bloated everything up into things that were salacious and mostly untrue. Like, I guess deep down inside, we kind of all know that OJ did it. And
hold on. Who's we? Who's we?
Okay, you know what? Let's get into this part. This is going to be interesting.
No, because I want to go through the commodification of OJ first, and then I'm going to tell you how black people feel about it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So let's get back and we'll round about into this question.
Okay.
But basically, the hyper reality of what I'm talking about is this: is that everything surrounded with the O.J. Simpson trial was expanded into such a degree where everything that we know about the case is either inflated, a lie, or a fallacy. Everything surrounding it was over bloated by hearsay, by misunderstandings of the case or the trial or the information that was putting back in. Everything was so messed up and topsy-turvy.
Right. And okay, so to go a little bit into that, one of the reasons why the Marsha Clark and her team, who were against OJ's lawyers, I guess they were representing the state of California versus OJ. One of the reasons they lost is that they had the LAPD was notorious for setting people up. All right, they were notorious for putting black men in jail. One of the guys on the case, Mark Furman, was a known individual who was recorded. I mean, they had files on this guy where had said the N word, where he said he fantasized, I think, about like hurting black people, that he hated black people and he hated people of other races. He was just basically a known racist person that would actually and had been found to be planting things on other people, and he was one of the guys that was on the case. And one of the things that the dream team, OJ's lawyers, realizes they could use that against this guy and be like, what if he planted the gloves? Yeah. What if he planted the blood? And that was one of the things that cracked the whole thing of, when you have murder trials, and I have spent millions and millions, or maybe hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours watching murder mysteries, especially on Discovery ID. One of the things you want to do when you have a trial is you want to create reasonable doubt. And anywhere you could create a little bit of doubt and you could sway, I think, one juror to say, you know what, I don't know. I think you have a hung jury, right? Or something like that.
Yep.
Don't all 12 people have to agree that you are guilty for you to be guilty?
No, they either have to do actually 4 things. People say it's 3, but it's actually 4.
Right.
So they either have to declare guilty.
Okay.
Not guilty. Nullification, which means I'll get to that in a second. Or that 4th thing, hung jury, where
they just cannot agree.
They cannot agree, and the case is over.
Right.
And
what the OJ's lawyers did is they kept poking holes into the trial because of the problems that the LAPD had created for themselves. Okay. But let's continue with the commodification though.
Yeah.
Of the trial. So, let's see. It says, according to, okay, well, I don't know where I got this information from. It's from online though. I think it's CNBC.com. Let's see. It says the case was a bonanza for newspaper and magazines. Okay. Notable moments in print journalism, including dismissed juror Tracy Hampton's Playboy centerfold, a controversial Time magazine cover that altered Simpson's mugshot to make him appear darker. Of course, all these magazines sold a lot. There was a whole journalist John Cargill's coverage of the trial for Dog World magazine, where I think they were talking about how the dog is the only person that knows what really happened. Let's see. Supermarket tabloids lost about 30% of their circulation from the early 90s. Like I said before, they started to make money around the O.J. Simpson trial, especially magazines like the National Enquirer. Simpson also, at the end of the trial, after he beat the case, wrote 2 books. I forgot how much money. I think he was forwarded. I want to see how much did he make from the books. I forgot how much money. Maybe like $10 million. I think he was forwarded to write these books. Eventually, all the monies that were made for those books were actually given to Nicole and Ron Brown's family. Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman's family, because they did sue him outside of the case and won, I think, $38 million in damages. Let's see. Simpson spent a considerable amount of money and effort fighting the cottage industry of unlicensed memorabilia. So there was a lot of memorabilia of OJ that sold like crazy during this time frame. Sales of items ranging from a set of Pogs, a 90s schoolyard fad involving collectible cardboard discs, to a board game called Squeeze the Juice, made estimated $50 million. Bronco sales went up 23% after the trial. All right, the glove that OJ wore, the memorabilia glove with the famous line from Johnny Cochran when OJ put the glove on during the case and said, "If the glove does not fit, you must acquit." That glove sold for $3 million. The Bronco itself, after the trial, I think sold for $300,000 or $400,000. Now, mind you, that's $400,000. That's back in the 90s. That Bronco, $400,000. That's probably like $700,000 now. It's a lot of money to spend on a car, such as a Ford Bronco. Let's see. OJ was wearing a particular style shoe. I think that got a lot of play because there was a footprint found at the murder scene.
Was he wearing Doc Martens?
No, it wasn't Doc Martens. I'll see if I could find the name of the shoe that he was wearing.
Or Steve Madden's.
They were not Steve Madden's. But the shoe that he was wearing was some Italian brand shoe. They got free advertising, I think. It's to the point where it was like a small Italian shoe shop. They basically got bought out by a major buyer. Let's see. Simpson's attorneys argued during the damages phase of the trial that he was approximately $850,000 in debt afterwards. Attorneys to the victim's family argued ex-athlete had already made about $2.8 million since his acquittal, selling rights to a book, video, autographs, and other memorabilia. And I mean, and more, you know, the thing about the O.J. Simpson trial, I think that a lot of people don't see is, yes, O.J. was on trial. Yes, it pretty much looks like O.J. killed his wife. But behind all of that was a money-making machine that was just relentless and I don't even know, what is the word?
Aggressive.
It was aggressive. It was in your face, and like nobody.
It was unrelenting.
And nobody ever really talks about how much money people made off of the O.J. Simpson trial, off of the tragedy of two people dying, and you're trying to make somebody look bad for what they're doing, but meanwhile you're monetizing off of it. Like shamelessly making money off of it.
It's why I brought up earlier about the whole like hyper realism of it all.
Yeah.
Because it's just incredible just to see how much people were pumping into that, not just in attention wise and in reactions and everything, but also in money.
Of course.
Just how this case was such a economy on its own.
It was an economy. And then to top things off, you know, they're like I told you guys, I watched the documentary on Netflix of OJ's life. That's gonna make money, right? Streaming forever and ever and a day until nobody's interested in it anymore. There was an FX series that came out about 5 years ago. Oh, yes. Oh, and that garnered a whole lot of attention.
I remember watching The People versus OJ.
The People versus OJ. Oh, and it was magnificently done.
It was great.
It was great. Cuba Gooding Jr. played OJ Simpson. I was kind of skeptical on him playing OJ well, but he did such a great job.
He killed it, yeah.
He killed it. It was so well done. So
John Travolta was in it. David Schwimmer.
Yes. It was so good. But look at that. It's still making money till this day. Like, people are still fascinated with OJ. People are still buying and trading OJ memorabilia. And do you know now that he's died, his memorabilia is worth even more money?
Oh, yeah.
So people are now trying to sell the things that they have of OJ's. And by the way, OJ did eventually go to jail.
Yeah, he did.
I want to say
it's due to theft.
Right. So poor OJ. So he was trying to stop some people from selling his memorabilia. I want to say maybe in the early 2000s, maybe 2004-ish, I think. and he went to somebody's hotel and broke in and tried to steal his own memorabilia back from this person. Yeah. And of course he got caught up and he went to jail for something like 10 years. Came out around 2014. He got 33 years in jail after the case was over for breaking and entering and stealing other people's things. And then he went to jail, but he only served 10 years and then he got out, which was pretty interesting.
So I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and move into the reaction from the Black community. We have like 10 minutes left. And
sure. So, with all of this, I think it's good to talk about how Black people feel about the OJ trial. And obviously we're not a monolith, but I think I can talk on the behalf of myself and what I think most Black people think about the OJ Simpson trial. So there was something that I read on theroot.com. It says what Black people say about OJ Simpson when white people aren't around. And basically what it says in that article is white people think that we think that as Black people as a monolith that we think that OJ didn't do it. And what the article is saying is that it's not that we think he didn't do it. It's just that, some Black people in front of white people don't really want to talk about it because basically Black people think white people take the case so seriously. And it's to the point where it's like you're overly scrutinizing one case when there are tens and thousands of cases of white men, white people hanging, killing Black people. You have, Jim Crow days. You have KKK days. You have the police killing Black and brown people you have the police killing Black and brown people, and of course the police kill white people too. We just don't see it on television. Yep. But Black people were such a minority. We're such a small percentage of the population, and for us it just seems like, and statistically, that we are killed at a higher rate and we are incarcerated at a higher rate as a group. So, when we look at a case like the OJ Simpson trial, we're like, oh my God, it's one guy that got away. Why are white people so mad about one guy that got away? You have the Rodney King trial in 1992 where 4 white police officers beat Rodney King to a pulp on camera. Yep. And they went to trial and everyone saw the video. It was playing 24/7 on television. And this was in LA too, right? In the Black part of LA. And these white cops beat this man to bits over and over again with batons, whatever they can find. They just beat him up. And then when the trial is over, they're like, the 12 white jurors are like, oh, it seems like it was reasonable force. And it was like the guy was on the ground, like, looking like he was dying. What do you mean it was reasonable force? Yeah. And how could white people see that and not talk about that? But, one guy supposedly murders his wife and gets away with it. And you take that case and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe he got it.
We have to do a future episode about the Rodney King case. That is another defining moment of the 90s.
Right. So this is a defining moment of the 90s.
So anyways, Fran was going to tell us, is O.J. Simpson guilty or not?
Okay, so in the article, so let me see what it says. Okay, there's also this whole thing about calling it the trial of the century. It is absurd to call the O.J. Simpson the trial of the century when years and years later you have Jeffrey Dahmer, who basically ate He killed and ate his lovers.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You have serial killers on the loose for like years and years and years. Some serial killers have a serial killer like women, like usually it's mostly women that end up dead, by the way, in these serial killer situations. You have serial killers who get caught all the time, and they're killing what, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 people. You don't even know how many people they kill in the end. And you have trials for these people, and those are not trials of the century. You have one guy, OJ, who's basically like an athletic phenom that is obviously an egomaniac and very full of himself and a very abusive individual. Possibly kill his wife, and it's the trial of the century.
Yes.
You don't think Jeffrey Dahmer killing and eating his lovers is a trial of the century?
No, it isn't.
Why?
Okay, so let me run down a couple of things with you.
Please
real quick,
do,
right?
because I'm confused.
Okay. All these people that were like mass murderers and serial killers, right?
I love one. Can't wait to hear this.
Okay. We know that they're bad people. We expect them to be found guilty. We expect them to receive the case. We feel a lot of emotions about them and everything. We expect that trial to be a shut and closed case, period.
Open and shut case.
Open and shut case. Closed and shut. Open and shut. Whatever.
Open and shut.
That's not what we call a case of the century. That's called a end to the conclusion.
End to the conclusion.
An end to the conclusion.
A conclusion is an end, Marty, but continue.
An end to the conclusion meaning like right to the very dot of the period word. Like we know where this is going. We expect it to go where we know it's going. So to watch the trial is not really a big of a deal. We just want to hear the words guilty, and that's it. But when it came to the OJ trial case, a couple of things are different. One, this guy won the Heisman Trophy.
Okay.
The greatest football player of all time. The Hearts guy. The Naked Movies guy.
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun movies. The friendly OJ.
Yes,
the guy who came from...
good-looking OJ.
The good-looking OJ.
So
the guy
sexy.
who came from like poverty all the way up to becoming a millionaire. The guy who jumped up to the upper white middle class and who didn't say...
Upper white middle class. He was in the 1%. What are you talking about?
I mean, with modern America, with the whole white aesthetic and all that stuff.
He was at the tippy top. He was in like the most exclusive golf clubs, exclusive clubs. He was living in like one of the richest parts of LA.
Which you're absolutely right, but what I'm trying to say on that aspect is that white America was in love with him.
Yeah.
And the thing is...
I think America was in love with him. I don't think it was white America.
Not modern white.
White America
was...
White America
accepted him and looked at him as an example of the community that he represented. And when people asked him, OJ, are you black? Sorry, and when they asked him, hey, are you black? You know what OJ would say? No, I'm OJ. So, coming towards that, and then finding...
Okay, but did you understand what he said when he said that? Because I think a lot of people take that out of context, and I think they took it out of context even back then, and they ran with it and thought, OJ... I heard a lot of it within the Netflix series where they were like, OJ didn't think he was black. OJ was pretty much in... As soon as he got to University of South Carolina, which was a very all-white school that didn't have a lot of protests or anything like that, like at Berkeley and San Jose universities, as they showed, this school was just regular, ignore the politics. We're just here. We're white. We're chilling. OJ's here. He's part of us. And OJ just assimilated into the school, married his longtime girlfriend, and started having a family, I think, after he got into the NFL.
Yeah.
But, what I took from this whole thing about I'm not black, I'm OJ, I think OJ Simpson worked so hard to get himself out of the situation that he was in. And he had so much ambition that at some point, I think this is what happens to people who become uber rich, is that, and I remember this guy on Instagram said something like this. He was like, when real business people are doing business, they're not looking at the color of your skin. He's like, racism, he's like, people who are making money and making big moves, like the real people at the tippy top who are really doing big things, are just doing big things. Yep. So OJ was up there in his own circle of rich people doing rich people stuff.
Yep.
And I really don't think he didn't see himself as black. I just think he was so into his own lane doing his own things that he wasn't really thinking about color anymore.
Thank you for proving my point.
Yeah, so I'm
Thank you for proving my point.
I think he was just
like,
my point
of everything that I was trying to accommodate, because it's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Whether you understood it, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
For OJ, I don't think it mattered.
No, it doesn't matter. Not to OJ. I'm talking about the audience. I'm talking about modern the America of the 90s.
Right.
Because when you understood it as a different way, because you're evaluating it in the terms of him, but the rest of America, when they heard that, they're like, oh, he doesn't consider himself as black. The most simplest of forms. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong, or whether OJ meant it in that way or not. We're talking about a racist America of the 90s. We're talking about a racist California of what happened in 1992 when it came to the whole beatdown of, what's his name again?
Rodney King.
We're talking about like a very agitated America where this whole case was nothing but about between whites and blacks.
Right.
And so,
wait, how old were you when the verdict was read?
I think I was like around 7 or 8 years old.
I was like, I want to say I was about 14 or 15 years old when it was read, and it was so funny. I was in Wheaton High School, and they put on the TVs for the reading of the verdict. And I lie to you not, Wheaton High School was a very diverse school. We had white, we had black, we had Asian, we had Hispanic. We had a little bit of everybody in our school. And it was really interesting. Basically, all the brown kids, brown and black, when the verdict was read, what I saw was, and I really just saw black kids, we jumped for joy that OJ had gotten away with it. Because I'm not going to say he did it. All right, I'm just going to say he allegedly killed his wife, and it looks like, for all intents and purposes, he really did kill her. But I can't say the man was tried and found innocent, so I'm going to leave that there. But all the white kids sat down, and they were just quiet. It was like they were so mad. I think they couldn't believe that a black man had gotten away with killing a white woman. And I really think that's all it was. It's like, well, how dare this nigger get away with that? You can't get away with that. You're black and she's white. And it's like, he's like, I'm not black. I'm OJ. I can kill this bitch. What you talking about? Right? So
I remember that people were, I remember on one news segment, a lot of people were celebrating. It was mostly like the minority community. And then the white community was saying, oh, this is such a tragic reading of the Constitution and the law and blah, blah, blah.
Shut up.
And this and that and blah, blah, blah.
It was a great reading.
And as I got older.
The law is the law, and it was good that day.
As I got older and I started reflecting back on the O.J. Simpson trial and everything like that.
Where's your glass, Marty?
It's right over there. I'm fine.
Oh.
I started to reflect, right? And it was still this thing where, like, the question whether he was guilty or not no longer mattered. It just didn't.
Right.
And so, but I do want to answer that question. But to me, like, that case was never about whether he was guilty or not. It was about, like, what is going to happen if he's found guilty? What is going to happen to the perception?
Well, he was going to go to jail. What do you mean?
No. I'm talking about, like,
was
California going to be in flames again?
Oh
Was
yes. Oh
was
yeah,
the
that was a really big you're right. There was talks on the 24-hour network news network CNN that was covering it, gavel gavel.
yeah
Right? And they were basically like, is this going to be a second LA riots
yeah
if they if they charge OJ Simpson for the murder of Nicole?
yeah
But
because again,
but usually when you're charged, don't they sentence you on another day? I feel like they
no,
don't
on the
charge.
same.
They charge you on the same day.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
And
wow.
so the reason why I keep emphasizing why the question was he guilty or not doesn't matter. It was going to be the result and how people felt around it, because we saw
Oh,
just
they burnt down
yeah
downtown
we
LA
saw
after the Rodney King.
1992.
Yeah, and rightfully so, they burnt down
I
that part of the
actually
city.
was a small little child when the first major riot in the 90s started.
Right.
So I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. And my neighborhood is Mount Pleasant.
Good for you.
So in 1991, I was actually there during that day. A African American female police officer, and a couple of other officers were trying to arrest this drunk guy. And so there was a crowd that was surrounding them, and because the officers were shouting at the guy. And so the drunk guy was slurring his words and couldn't speak Spanish and all that stuff. Sorry, couldn't speak English and all that stuff because he was only able to speak Spanish. And so they took, the guy was trying to take out like a piece of gum or something like that, and they shot him right in front of the whole crowd.
Ooh.
And so like the crowd started jeering and started like getting rabbly and everything. And so I remember being on my dad's shoulders, but I couldn't see anything, but I heard a shot. I heard a couple of shots, and I was like, what the hell is going on? It's like, don't worry about it. We got to get home. We got to get home.
You gotta get out of there.
It was 3 days of fire bombs on the businesses and homes and apartments on that neighborhood.
Dang.
And it spread out from Mount Pleasant to Columbia Heights and Columbia Road and Adams Morgan. And it was 3 days of that. Wow. We used to have a Church's Chicken. We used to have a couple of main businesses there. They got burned down. They lost the insurance that night. My apartment got firebombed 3 times.
Oh no.
3 times, and luckily, nothing bad ever happened. But still, it was like a scary ass time. And to see Los Angeles had a much worse experience because there was such a tension of the racial
Right.
epithet of the century. And so when you ask the question was this really about the case of the century? Yes it was.
It really wasn't.
There was so much hinging
I think
on
there
it.
was
There was
a
a personality
lot of
change.
tension,
There was
yeah.
a lot of perceptions that were being changed throughout the case in itself, before and after. There was this perception of O.J. Simpson, the stand-up African-American guy who doesn't identify as black or white, but this monolith of American, all that stuff. And then after the trial is no, we got to represent our community. We got to represent this because they didn't have your backs. They wanted you to burn. They wanted you to go to jail. And the black community was we got your backs. We know where you came from. There was this broken split that happened right after that.
When the going gets tough, black people, we get behind our people even when they've been bad.
And that was a pure example of it.
OJ to some extent, I mean, did ignore his blackness, and I know I said I think he was just trying to be himself, trying to get out of poverty. And I think if you grow up a certain way and you get out of poverty and you work the way OJ did, I think you're on a different mindset where you could kind of see, I really think, past race, and I bought his I'm not black, I'm OJ thing, but it did rub a lot of black people the wrong way. But when time comes, and especially when it has to do with the police, black people will be in the corner with our black people, and we will support one another when things like that go down, because at the end of the day, OJ's gonna suffer the same way we're all gonna suffer if we don't say anything or have opinions on it. So what I was gonna talk about at the end of this episode was, I think a lot of white people want to know, do black people think OJ did it? And to tell you the truth, I don't think most black people care. That's really what it is. I think we don't care whether he did it or not. It is besides the point to us. We just wanted to see a fair trial for him. It looked like he got a pretty fair trial, even though it cost him like all his money.
No, it did.
It cost him all his money. But at the end of the day, for once in a million years, he got a trial, and they couldn't really pin the case on him. And yeah, it looks like it looks like he got away with murder, but I'm telling you, I'm just gonna say I think most black people don't care. We just were watching to see how it was gonna go down, and trying to see like if they were gonna lynch OJ the way they lynch black people, the way Donald Trump lynched those young black men from the Central Park Five,
Yep.
and sent those poor young black men to jail after he put some stupid New York Times. What is he? He put some ad in some newspaper saying how they needed to go to jail and they were the worst people and all, and they should be executed and all this kind of nonsense. Black men in this country have been hounded and mistreated and jailed to a much higher rate. I still think till this day there are more black men in jail than there are actually out here in the outside world living and prospering and doing what they want to do. And OJ, I think, represented to us a guy who worked his entire life to get out of poverty to better himself and his family. He made it up to the upper echelons of the one percenters, living in Hollywood, living his best life, making his movies, making his millions. He did everything he could to stay out of, like, just to get out of poverty and to just live a better life. And it's unfortunate that it got to the point where, it looked like he may have killed his wife. But I'm kind of like that person, and it's gonna sound wild. I'm somebody who listens to a lot of Chappelle comedy, and if you watch the Netflix special of how Nicole Brown Simpson and O.J. Simpson's relationship formed from the beginning, it looked like the guy raped her on the first date. Okay? And throughout their relationship, it seems like it wasn't just the drugs and probably the alcohol and the boozing or whatever it is that they were doing in Hollywood together. These people were in a volatile, horrible marriage, horrible relationship from beginning to end. And the thing about it is, if you marry somebody who is always beating on you, and you yourself keep telling people he's gonna kill me, right? And you keep calling the cops, and the cops even themselves have notated, and the 911 callers have notated, and y'all keep getting back together. The woman, keeps getting back with this man. I'm not saying that she deserved to die, but to me, the writing was on the wall. And I'm not excusing OJ if he did do it, but I think most black people kind of look at it and we just go, you know what, that's kind of unfortunate.
It is.
It's an unfortunate situation and it sucks. But we're not going to take sides, and we're not going to throw Brother OJ, even though he probably never wanted to be called Brother OJ. We're not throwing Brother OJ under the bus. Okay. Brother OJ beat the American system. He beat it in the 60s. Come on, man. He beat it. He beat it back then when black people were still being called niggas.
So I kind of want to
He beat it during a time when other sports figures put their fists up in the air in the Olympics, and they never came back from that.
Yep.
Come on, it was not a time where if you joined in and said and became political or things like that things were always going to turn out right for you. So OJ beat the system. He made it out of the hood, made it to college, made it to the NFL, made it to the movies, made it to Hollywood, retired, was hanging out with his rich friends, and maybe he accidentally killed his wife that everybody knew he was going to kill in the first place.
So, I kind of want to conclude on this terms.
I want to conclude. Yeah, let's conclude.
So, since Fran is refusing to answer the question.
What's the question?
Not brave enough.
What's the question? Do we think he...
OJ did it? Frank.
I don't care.
I know exactly.
I just don't care. Cowardly. It doesn't concern me.
So to me,
I wasn't there and I didn't see it. I wasn't there and I didn't see it. All the evidence points to he probably did it, but that's about all I can say.
You weren't born because I wasn't there to see it. Anyways.
That's possible too.
Yep. Anyways.
Maybe I'm a ghost.
I will answer the question on behalf of America, true America.
What do you mean you're going to answer? On which part of America are you answering
it for? The true America. The real Americans.
You talk about white America?
The Americans that want real answers other than this flibby flabby, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't.
Of course you don't. It's because you don't care about America.
That's not true. I love America.
Nope, you don't. I am a true patriot.
I just don't like the way they dog my boy OJ.
I am 90%.
He seemed like he could be innocent.
Stop interrupting.
He seemed like he could be innocent.
Thank you. Anyways, I'll answer the question. I think it's 85 to 90% that he did it.
Wow.
As simple as it is.
Okay, so you believe there's a really good chance that he killed Nicole.
It's why I wasn't shaken up when he wasn't found not guilty, because the Dream Team killed it. The Dream Team put reasonable doubt.
Reasonable doubt. They pushed
and it's exactly why I can't be mad. It's why I wasn't overly invested into how could they find. It's did you not see what they did in the trial?
Yeah, they did a great job.
You're proven innocent. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Yep.
And if there's reasonable doubt, an inkling of reasonable doubt that he may not have done it, you must accept that. It doesn't matter if this is the statistics of 90% or 80% of the time that spouses kill their spouses, or they found their blood here and there, because what was it? The cops were racist at the time.
They sure were.
Ferguson was well known to hate biracial couples. He was well known to place and to encourage other officers
of Furman?
Falsifying. Yeah, Furman.
Mark Furman.
He was known to place
a
lot of false evidence and to promote other officers to do the same.
Right, and to frame black men to send them to jail.
It was well known that the state attorneys could not provide actual, real, legitimate facts to convince the jury.
Mm-hmm.
And the demonstrations and everything pointing direction that there's a chance that he didn't do it. There's no conclusive evidence that he actually did do it. Now, the reason why I say 80 to 90% that he did do it is because, let's face it, it's more likely he did. He was very abusive.
Circumstantial evidence.
I'm not talking about it in the case trial anymore. I'm talking about it in my own personal opinion.
Okay. Because that's what counts in a murder case. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it was his blood. Actually, no, never mind. There was blood that was connecting to him. Mm-hmm. There was the clothes that was connecting over there. There was a rush of the red eye that he did for the trip bound to Chicago, and found scars on his hands.
Yes, there was a scar on his hand. Yeah,
and his motion of how he conducted himself throughout the whole thing. Now, the reason why I'm saying also that it's 85 to 9% that chance that he did do it is because the 15 to 10% chance that he didn't do it, I think it was his son.
Okay, so
we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time to get into that whole conclusion.
And there is a rumor, and that is a rumor, Marty. And you cannot.
Here's a couple of things though that I do want to bring up.
Rumors out there that.
But that's why I'm saying 15 to 10% chance that it could have been him, as my opinion. That's it.
Look,
the reason why I'm bringing this up is for a couple of things. Both.
Shush, Shiggy. Shush.
So a couple of things. Both Simpsons actually got professional training with knives.
You mean OJ and his
his son?
Professional training with knives, as in what?
So I believe that his son went to the military, and he got professional training with knives and handling military equipment. OJ was trained because he was going to be in a TV show called Frogs, which was marine or like it was like a marine show or something like that,
Interesting.
where he was supposed to be training like the military and stuff like that, and every week there would be like showing like special missions and all that stuff with O.J. Simpson and the pack of team and all that stuff. And so they trained him with knives because like you had to be sneaky to get past the guards and everything, and they showed him how to train with knives. The other thing is that they never tested his son. They did test OJ, but even then,
Test OJ for what?
for his blood sample of the DNA. But even then, there was some inaccuracy saying that, like it was like 99% like conclusive that it was him, but that 1% was like brought into question for a couple of reasons, and the reason why is because it could be related to someone else within his family.
Okay, that I did not know.
Yeah.
I've
And
heard
it was the handling of the whole case trial that made it even more murky
Right.
when it came to all that. But as I said, as you mentioned before, this is all just
Hearsay.
conspiracy and hearsay
Hearsay, yeah.
and theories.
Yes.
I'm not saying that he actually did do it. I'm saying that there could be a chance or a possibility. And in fact, there was another theory is that like his son had some sort of like weird factuation with Nicole at the time.
God.
There was some issues back and forth with that also added
His,
into
his son from his first marriage.
yeah.
Okay, not the son that he had with Nicole, because that son is very young.
So, but again, mentioned before, theories and all of that, conspiracies. But at the end of the day, I'm with you, Fran. It really doesn't matter. Like, it's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
Whether I do really think that he's guilty, it really doesn't matter because it's an unfortunate situation where like a person has to die to throw away the mask of America about racism, about the hyper reality of how we treat serious things that are going on in our society, and how the possibility that even if he was found guilty, how it would have destroyed America twice, and how it would have like spit in the face of everything that was made in progress for the United States and everything like that.
I don't know about all that.
I'm saying this in my own perspective. And
Right,
I'm saying this
okay,
because
got
I think the best outcome was like this.
They hadn't proved beyond a reasonable doubt that
You're
he
right,
had absolutely
and I'm saying that
That's
I'm saying
really
in
what
the
it is.
I'm saying in the imperative that if this had happened, I do believe that America would have been thrown back another decade. Because there was just so much that was going on through the United States. There was so much of this like fresh scar that happened in Los Angeles.
Yes, I think with LA too, it was with the cops. I think there was an Asian grocer that had killed a young black girl. I forgot her name. It's a famous case.
Yep.
Either was it Brooklyn or was it LA?
No, it was LA.
I think it was LA.
It was LA.
A grocery, a Asian woman who owned her like a bodega type of shop, shot a girl that was trying to buy something in her shop, and she shot her because she thought she was trying to shoplift, and she shot her in the back of the head, and it caused a real big stir because like, who shoots someone for shoplifting? And it was like the girl had money, and it was like the item was probably worth like a couple dollars, and when she went to trial, they found her guilty, but then they gave her community service. And the black community was outraged. I want to say not too long afterwards, that was the Rodney King beating. And then after the Rodney King beating, the 4 white policemen got away with beating Rodney King. And Rodney King got a significant payout, by the way, from that. Like, I think like $26 million or something like that from the city of Los Angeles. And then after that came the O.J. Simpson trial. So there was just a lot of
tension.
There was a lot of tension within LA over what was going on, but I think the reason why they let OJ go is because they could not, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove 100% that he had definitely done it, and that's really just it. I don't think it had to do with anything else. The whole thing with his son.